I never imagined I would even come out of the funk that I was in. So I was like, what's the point? Like, this is just my life now.
Brooke Eby is 35 years old. She lives in Bethesda, Maryland, and she has ALS.
I'm Brooke and I have ALS.
My life for the first, I'll call it 29 years, was like unrelatably perfect. Like, it was a picture perfect childhood. I have a great family. I've had the same group of friends since I was in kindergarten. Like, high school was like Friday Night Lights, sort of. And then at the age of like 29, 30, some weird things started happening that have just sort of defined my life for the last 5 years. I was walking and a few of my coworkers pointed out that I was limping, which, you know, when you're 29, you're like, okay, I probably like Pilated too hard, too close to the sun. That's what's so weird about ALS. First, the amount of devastation the disease causes, the first symptom just never seems like that big of a deal. I immediately went to my sister and her husband, who are both doctors, and I was like, can you guys look at my walk? I think I'm walking kind of funny. And they were like, okay, Brooke, walk towards us on your heels. So I would walk towards them on my heels, and my right foot would stay up. My left foot just kept slapping down to the ground. Like, I couldn't hold it up. They thought I just like pinched a nerve in my back from, again, like working out or just, you know, living. And they really didn't seem concerned until I got the MRI. It was clean. I got an X-ray, that was clean. And then they started noticing that my calf was atrophying, like it started looking really skinny. And they were like, okay, you're losing muscle and you're limping, like something bigger is going on here.
A neurologist at Hopkins, who kind of said he was suspicious for it, and we were like, he's crazy.
We were like, you're the worst.
Hopkins, whatever. Unfortunately, he was right.
Joke's on us.
It was just your left leg. It didn't make sense.
It was just my left foot for 4 years. And they kept doing an EMG where they like test if your nerves are working, basically. And mine clearly weren't in my left foot. At the 4-year mark, my right foot started having weakness too. And that was when I went back to the neurologist and they were able to officially diagnose me.
Brooke was diagnosed in March of 2022.
I was alone at the doctor's appointment because I'd been to so many that I was like, it's just going to be another appointment. Like, no one needs to come with me. No big deal. I show up, the doctor tells me, I drive home and I call my sister. She conferences in my parents. I think I was crying and I think my sister was crying. I think my parents were trying to hold it together, but also like everyone was just so shocked. I went home from that appointment, got in my bed with like a bag of M&Ms and just sat there. I remember like I would Google ALS and then close out the window and then Google it and close out the window. And I was just like flipping out, like just sort of circling in my mind.
ALS, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects nerve cells in both the brain and spinal cord. It's sometimes known as Lou Gehrig's disease, after the Yankee player who famously battled and died from the illness in 1941. After her diagnosis, Brooke had a pivotal moment in her journey.
I was in the wedding as a bridesmaid and I had only been eating M&Ms for 2 months. So like the dress was too tight. I was showing up using a walker and I was just like, please, like, can I just be invisible during this whole time? And as we're walking in, like I was using the same walker as the bride's grandmother. Like we were comparing tennis balls. Like it was comical. But I turned to my friend and I'm like, Jackie, like I gotta leave. There's no way I can do this. This is gonna be the most embarrassing thing ever. And she was like, but what if we just made it really fun? We kind of just like rallied from there, and that's when the walker came out onto the dance floor and we got the bride limboing under it and we got people taking walker rides. And I was just like, you know what? Screw it. Like I can still be myself. I can still, you know, laugh even at the darkest things, which has always been my coping mechanism. And I think I just needed that sort of whipping me back into shape.
That mindset has guided Brooke.
I'm Brooke and I'm dying. Trying out some new intros. I do not see that one sticking.
I just started sharing like funny things that had happened to me since being diagnosed.
I'm Brooke and I'm better at dying than you are. Maybe.
I have honestly it's been like therapeutic for me, because rather than thinking about every aspect of ALS as sad, I'm thinking of it as like, where's the joke in this? And it's somehow been, like a fun year and a half, as much as it's been hard.
I would never wish ALS upon anyone. That's clinically insane. Absolutely not. No way, no hell. But if I had to pick, if a Kardashian got ALS, we would all be saved.
And also at the time I started realizing, like, even though I was given a name to this disease, I've really been living with it for 5 years. And I've learned how to manage it so far. So like, it just has a name on it now. So now I can find community around it, or, build awareness for it. Like, now there's a name to it that I can actually hook onto.
Brooke quickly transitioned from a cane to a walker, then a wheelchair in a few months.
Once my second leg started feeling weak, it's like walking on like a rocking boat. Like I could never totally feel sturdy. So I got a cane, and that really helped with my left leg, the worst one, because I could just sort of counterbalance it with the cane. And then as my right leg started feeling weaker and weaker, I started feeling a little shaky just with the cane. So I went to a walker. With the walker, I was still able to walk, but I got tired so quickly. Like, my muscles just fatigue like crazy. And so I got a wheelchair in January just to try it out. I like never got out of it. Like, once I was in it, I'm like, oh my God, I could be using my energy in other ways other than just like walking 10 feet and feeling tired. The wheelchair has changed my life. Like, I feel people say like wheelchair bound. I feel like that's not even the right term for it, because I'm like, I have so much freedom now. I can go anywhere.
You all wanted a GoPro on me, so this is as close as I can get. Ready? Watch me and swerve and spin move.
Work, 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 work.
Brooke has made adjustments since her diagnosis.
I had a moment a couple weeks ago where I fell and I couldn't get up, and I pretty much was like, well, I guess I live on the ground now. If you look around my apartment, there's kind of gadgets everywhere now. On my couch, I've got handlebars so I can push off of the couch. I've got a chair that can lift me from the ground up, so when I fall, I can get up, assuming no one walks in. That's how I get up. And then I've got like a chair in my shower, a riser above my toilet. For driving, my feet don't work, so it wasn't safe for me to drive anymore. I couldn't press the gas or the brake. And then I just got hand controls installed in my car.
Okay, it is day 5,000 of taking this disgusting medicine.
I take like 30 pills a day. I take like a million vitamins and supplements, none of them proven to help ALS specifically. I mean, ALS, there's so much unknown about it. We don't understand why people get it. We don't understand why people progress the way they do. We don't understand why I'm a slow progressor today and someone who looks just like me is a fast progressor. And so these medicines, they're in the trials, they all show like better survival rates than people who are on the placebo.
She still works full-time at Salesforce and says the company has been very supportive.
Luckily, my job has been remote since the beginning of COVID, which is really when my symptoms started to get noticeably bad. And since my symptoms are all in my legs, it really hasn't affected my job.
Brooke lives alone but knows one day she will have to change living arrangements with family or her boyfriend, Brian.
We've been dating for 7 months, but we've known each other for 15 years.
Those are probably conversations that my family and I will be having soon. I'm not super excited to have them, but it's probably necessary at this point. It's interesting, like getting a diagnosis at this age when you're supposed to be thinking about, like getting married or having a family. Like all my friends are like having babies, and I'm like, do I really want to like ask someone, hey, do you want to move in because I need the help?
Hold right there. Good. Come right here and push me away.
Brooke does physical therapy and sees doctors often.
So they do a couple things. One is like maintenance of muscles. So they just try to work the muscles I still have. But the other is like helping me get around my apartment. So like one of the sessions she came over and I was like showing her how I transition to the toilet or transition to the bed. And she was giving me tricks for each of those just to keep me safe and prevent falls. I'm Brooke, and I hit my deductible a very long time ago. Every 3 months, you go to ALS clinic and you meet with like every provider that you need for ALS. You'll meet with physical therapy, occupational therapy, pulmonary function, neurology, palliative care. It's like you get like the full day where you see every doctor you need to. It's exhausting.
Can you hold it right there? Hold, hold, hold. What about this side here? Same thing, it turns on.
One of those, the pulmonary function, comes in and checks your breathing. And that's the scariest part, because when you have ALS, most people die because they have like a respiratory failure. So each time I act like Rocky and I go wild trying to get my score up, one time I'm usually in the 100 range, which I'm super happy about. Like, you really don't worry about getting any of the breathing machines until you're at like 50.
Very slightly below 100. No, what is it? 97. Okay, we're gonna do it again. That was at like 105 last time.
Yeah. She focuses on staying as strong as she can.
My legs are definitely weaker and weaker every day, although I'm really not using them much anymore now that I'm relying on the wheelchair. I just don't feel safe on my own 2 feet anymore, so I'm sitting all the time. I do notice some weakness in my core, which affects way more than I was thinking. But my breathing and my voice still feel really strong, which to me is going to be the scariest change. And my hands and arms still feel pretty good. It's really just like my abs and my legs that are not good.
Although Brooke keeps a good sense of humor about ALS, she has planned ahead for tough moments to come.
I'm Brooke, and let's talk about my death.
End of life planning for me was figuring out medical directives. So I made a will. I did that like right after being diagnosed. I used something called 5 wishes, which kind of like gamifies end of life planning. So it's a packet that's like, do not resuscitate type questions. They're like, if I lose the ability to breathe, do I want to get trached? Like, do I want to get a tracheostomy to help me breathe? Or do I want a feeding tube if I can no longer feed myself? Or do I want to be kept comfortable in X, Y, and Z ways? But I mostly just wanted to give comfort to my family. They probably just feel so helpless all the time because they don't know what's next or how they can help. But that's like what a disease like this can do. It just sort of keeps you guessing. Voice banking is a way to record your voice so that eventually, if I have to use some sort of text-to-speech tool, I'll have my voice recorded and I can make it sound like me. And so eventually, if I lose the ability to move and to speak, I'll be able to get an eye gaze to communicate through my eyes onto an iPad. I can type out what I want to say, and then my voice would spit it out.
She also has a kind of bucket list. Just don't call it that.
And I've deigned it the adult Make-A-Wish list because bucket list just sounds so like tragic to me. It was like have lunch with like Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, and Steve Carell. One was to hang out with penguins. And a couple months later, my boyfriend got us like a penguin experience at the zoo. We got to hang out with penguins. One of them was to go on this one podcast that I follow. They had me on. Like, some of them came true.
Many moments are difficult, but Brooke feels prepared.
I'm super grateful. I feel like those first 29 years like built me a foundation to be able to approach this diagnosis in a much easier way than a lot of people have it. Like, I've got a great family. I've got a great group of friends. Financially, I'm still working. Like, I've got a lot of good building blocks to set me up for being able to manage this in a better way.
Brooke has advice for others dealing with ALS.
My best advice for someone who's diagnosed really with anything that's life-altering, doesn't have to be ALS, but the first one is to find a support group. And so I'm in 2 support groups now. One is local, so that I can ask people in my area, like, what's the best store to go to for X, Y, and Z? And then the other is a group of young women who were diagnosed with ALS. It's called Her ALS Story, and we were all diagnosed before age 35. So I'm in a group chat with like 80 other women going through the exact same thing. And we can talk about like dating and bodies and stuff that, you know, you can't really talk to your friends about, or you can, but it's hard to relate. So find a support group is always my best advice.
And if you can, keep your spirits up.
Try to find the joke in it. That's my trick. But I mean, everyone has different coping mechanism. So lean into whatever yours is. Mine is clearly like not taking anything seriously. You don't want to define yourself by your disease. And I'm like, I kind of don't care about that. Like ALS has needed a face for a really long time that people can relate to. And I think this next generation of people living with it are doing just that. Like there's so many of us on social media talking about ALS, talking about our experiences. And it's a lot of young faces, which I don't think people expect. They don't picture, young, very much alive women. And there's a whole group of us living with it. I just hope that people start thinking differently about ALS and caring more about it and not looking away, because it's such, these heavy things are so easy to look away from, especially now when we're just swarmed by content that we can pick from. Like, why would you want to look at something that's heavier? So I just hope people are shining more of a light on this disease, and if my content can help that, that's great.
For more information on ALS, visit als.org. For Inside Edition Digital, I'm Andrea Swindall.